Last winter, I made a video going over some of my winter running gear essentials. And in that video, I primarily focused on a few pieces of running gear that I use to help me stay warm through the winter, while also focusing on a few pieces of running gear that I use primarily for safety when running through the winter. And after a few comments on that video, as well as some DMs on Instagram, I realized I never really went over my full running kit that I use for winter running. And with winter upon us once again, I figured now is the perfect time to go over my full running kit to help me stay warm while running in the winter. All right, so before we get into the full list of my winter running kit, I do want to go over two things really quick. The first being that all of my winter running kit is either from LSKD or Adidas. And even though I'm running with those two brands specifically, this video isn't really about highlighting some brand and their product. It's more about showing you what I use in my day-to-day when running outside during the winter. Honestly, you could go with whatever your favorite brand is. See if they offer something similar to what I am showing for that piece of running gear. And if they have it, that's great. If they don't, you can look for the next best thing. Or if you are interested in any piece of gear that I do show through this video, I will have links down in the description. And secondly, when it comes to winter running gear, my philosophy has always been thinking about this piece of gear and basically how would it feel to run with that piece of gear if it were roughly 10 degrees warmer? I know when you first step out in any piece of winter running gear, it's gonna be cold and it's gonna feel like you almost don't have enough layers on. But as you get moving and as your body warms up, those pieces of gear will eventually become either too warm and or be just right. So I always err on the side of being a little cold when I first step out the door, in hopes that I warm up to a point where I'm not having to strip layers and either try and figure out how to carry that layer somewhere within and or throwing it on the side of the road, hoping nobody like finds it before I kind of do my out and back and then pick it up on the way back. And so with all of that out of the way, let's get into my winter running gear kit. All right, so with the winter gear list, we'll start from the bottom and move up to the top. So we'll start with the running shoe. Currently, I have my daily trainer, which is the Adidas Adizero SL2. And when I'm looking at my running shoe for winter running, there's really only one thing I care about, and that is the outsole. Really two things with the outsole: how much rubber coverage is there with the outsole, and then basically how aggressive is the lug pattern and or how much do the lugs protrude from the outsole to give me that grip and stability I will need when the roads or like road conditions may not be ideal. And one thing I do want to note really quick about the running shoe for winter running, I'm not someone who likes to have a very robust running shoe rotation, if you could believe that. And so with the daily trainer, I will put up with the fact that the upper is not really designed for wet conditions like rain or snow. If the conditions are that bad that I'm going to start to have issues with the upper of my trainer, then I will be taking the run indoors anyways to the treadmill. So that's something I don't have to worry about. And again, with that robust outsole, kind of that same thought process. If the conditions are that bad that the outsole on the SL2 won't be enough to keep me safe and keep my foot strike secure, then I'm just going to move the run indoors to, again, make sure I'm not making any like rash decisions that potentially turn out to derail my training and I end up injured and having to not be able to run for months on end. All right, so the next item with my winter running gear kit is running socks. These are the LSKD Fast Performance Crew Socks. And again, similar to my daily trainer running shoe, I don't really focus on having a sock that's kind of geared towards winter. I don't like having any more running gear than I need to have because I don't want to have my wife getting upset with me that I have so much running gear that I don't even know what to do with it all. And similar to the running shoes, if I'm running in conditions in the winter where these are getting soaking wet and I'm having a concern about the socks and basically not doing the job they need to be doing, then I'm going to be moving that run onto the treadmill because, again, the conditions most likely aren't good enough and I want to avoid the risk of injury. And so, like I said, I mainly just run with these socks. I run with them year round. I used to run with no-show socks, but I always found that in the winter, I had issues with the tights sometimes not always coming down all the way to the bottom of the no-show. And so I'd have exposed skin around the ankle, and that was never fun because my ankles would always get really cold. So I moved to the crew socks to help just provide that extra coverage down on my ankles. And for me, if you're really concerned about warmth, which I've never really had an issue with my socks and my shoes in terms of warmth while running in the winter, I would honestly just double up on the socks then. Maybe do the crew sock as your base layer sock, and then like a no-show sock as a sock that goes over to help create that second layer if, again, you're really concerned about keeping your feet warm during the winter. And the next piece of winter running gear for my winter running kit are my leggings. These are the Adidas Ultimate High Vis leggings. And honestly, I like these leggings for a few reasons. The first being that these leggings are extremely comfortable. They're warm, but they're not too warm to, again, that philosophy of how would these feel if it was 10 degrees warmer. So they provide warmth for pretty much any temperature I've run in without getting too hot, and also not being too thin to where if it gets cold enough, I'm not having any concerns about will these provide enough coverage. I also like these leggings because they have a lot of pockets. So you have a pocket on either leg, and then there's also a zippered pocket in the back. And then lastly, one of the main reasons I absolutely love these leggings is for the fact that they have a bunch of these high visibility strips throughout the legging that'll help you to be visible when you are running in low light conditions, and especially in the winter when the sun comes up kind of early-ish, but you're potentially running your morning runs starting off in the dark. And then if you're running in the evening, maybe after work or school, you're most likely having the sunset pretty early, which means you're going to be doing a portion of that run potentially in the dark. Like I said, this is absolutely critical to making sure that you are visible on your run so that you stay safe and you don't have to worry about any issues with others being able to see you on your run. And the next piece of running gear for my winter running kit is the run belt. I actually have two belts that I primarily run with. I have the Adidas running belt, and then I have the LSKD running belt. One of the main reasons I actually wear a running belt for winter running is primarily to carry the Marine Corps flag, which is irrelevant to basically everyone watching this video. But another reason I wanted to highlight the run belt for winter running gear is if you're someone who already owns a bunch of tights for the winter and maybe they don't have the pockets that I showed in those Adidas high vis leggings, this is a great option to be able to carry something like your phone, gels, hand warmers, keys, whatever you're looking to carry. The main thing with running belts and carrying the things within like compartments on your body is that it allows your hands to be free to kind of deal with the situation at hand, which is the weather conditions. The last thing you want to have happen is be carrying your phone or something else, and you need to like catch your balance and or catch yourself when you're falling, and the phone becomes like this thing in your head, so you like try and save it, and that ends up like causing the issue to be worse with the fall or whatever you're doing. So being hands-free with your winter running is essential to staying safe. And so with that, having a run belt is, like I said, great to be able to carry those things in extra compartments on your body to keep your hands free, and then also not to weigh down the pockets in your jacket so that you don't have like a front heavy jacket that's uncomfortable to wear. All right, next on my winter running gear kit is my base layer long sleeve shirt. This is the LSKD Aeroflex Plus long sleeve. And honestly, this long sleeve shirt works great as a base layer because, like I said at the beginning of the video, when I'm running and as my body starts to warm up, I want to have something that's good and breathable as a base layer, but will keep my body warm and help retain body heat. If I wear a base layer that's too thick, I always find myself being too warm as I get into the run and as my body warms up. So this is a great long sleeve shirt to have because, like I said, I may be cold in like those first 5 to 10 minutes out on my run, but as the run gets going, this has great breathability and ventilation to make sure I'm not getting too hot while also being able to retain as much body heat as possible throughout my run. Which leads me into my next piece of winter running gear, which is my running jacket. This is the LSKD functional training jacket. And like I already said with layering for the long sleeve shirt, layering with this jacket and that LSKD long sleeve shirt is typically more than enough to keep me warm throughout, like I'd say probably 90% of my winter running. The jacket is great because it has this mesh lining on the inside to help keep it breathable. And then the exterior layer is also good. It's water resistant. So in a snowfall, I wouldn't have any issues with the outer shell of this jacket getting soaked, and then I'm soaking wet on my run. And next for my winter running gear kit is running gloves. So as you can see, I have two pair of running gloves here. I have the Adidas Dash 2.0 running gloves and the Adidas Latimo running gloves. The Latimo are an extremely thin pair of running gloves. This would be like my spring fall race type running glove where I want to wear something to help keep my hands warm, but I also want to keep my body temps as low as possible to execute on race day as best as possible. And then the Dash 2.0 are a thicker fleece lined glove that also has the ability for touchscreen with the thumb and the pointer finger. And then another thing I like about the Dash 2.0 gloves is they have this small pocket on the kind of like top of your hand. It can't really hold much, if at all, but it is a nice place to potentially put like a hand warmer. So if you have a hand warmer on the inside of your glove and it gets too warm, you could take it out really quick and tuck it into the pocket. And you could potentially carry like gels if you have gel packs that are small enough or something else in here. And now one thing I will note, which I did mention in last year's video as well, I always run with 2 pairs of running gloves. And that's primarily because I've done enough runs where I got caught out with only 1 pair and I was out long enough that the pair started out being warm enough, but then eventually it got too cold and my hands started freezing. I didn't have hand warmers because I forgot them, and I didn't have a second pair of gloves. And I ended up running with like my hands in my armpits, and it just turned into a complete disaster of a run. So I now always run with 2 pairs of running gloves. I'll run with a pair that's a little thinner so that if I have to, what I could do is basically put on the 1 pair of running gloves and then go and put on that second pair of running gloves over this first pair so that again, I'm layering up to make sure my hands are as warm as possible. So like I said, running with 2 pairs of gloves, that's an absolute must. And next on the winter running gear kit is the balaclava. So in last year's winter running gear essential video, I talked about neck tubes or neck gaiters. And then I believe I talked about running beanies for the winter, but honestly, I think the balaclava is a better solution to both of those because it's basically a 2-in-1. And this is one of those items that I can use on 100% of my winter running, but similar to the leggings, this will cover 90% of the running that I do without needing anything extra to cover my head. And the one thing I absolutely love about this balaclava, which is the Adidas Alpha Skin 2, is first of all, in the actual face area, you have a mesh lining here that makes it more breathable. So unlike neck tubes and neck gaiters, which typically it's the same consistency of product, so it's usually just like a fleece lined product that covers the whole face, this one has this breathable mesh in the front. So when you're holding it up to your face, it one helps you be able to breathe better, because one of the issues I always had with the neck tube was I would run between having my face be too cold, so I'd pull it up, but then it would get like too warm. I couldn't really breathe with it over my face. So then I would have to pull it down. And so I just kind of would have this weird like pulling it up, pulling it down, pulling it up throughout my entire run. This mesh liner solves for that. It also works great because again, it works as your neck tube, so it protects your neck. And then you can pull the balaclava over your face to either cover just your ears and or your full head. So again, you have one piece of gear that basically covers 2 pieces of gear and has the versatility to cover just your neck, cover your face halfway, or cover everything fully. And it keeps you warm. It's fleece lined, similar to the leggings, and it's thin enough to still be breathable while helping retain body warmth to help keep you warm throughout your run. All right, and my next piece of winter running gear essential is a beanie. So this is just a knit beanie from Adidas. And honestly, with the balaclava as my main kind of like thing to cover my neck and head, I don't really find that I need a beanie too often with my runs. If the treadmill is not an option for me and I have to run outside and it's that cold that I find I need a layer beyond the balaclava, that's where I would do something like a knit beanie to just help cover my head. And again, make sure my body is staying warm, making sure I'm retaining as much body warmth as possible throughout my run, and then just making sure that I'm comfortable throughout my run. And then my last piece of running gear for winter running is the water bottle. Now this is like the 3rd or 4th video that I've done where I'm talking about running gear, and I've highlighted the water bottle. And that's just because this has become such a crucial piece of running gear for my everyday running. And there's 2 main reasons I like this water bottle in particular. So this is just a Nathan water bottle with the extra like hand grip that you have and the pocket. This is the 18 fluid ounce water bottle. I also have a 12 fluid ounce water bottle as well that I use if I'm going on shorter runs and I don't need something as big as this one here. But the main two reasons I like the water bottle is one, again, pockets. You'll notice that's a theme throughout the winter running gear. And that's basically making sure I have enough pockets or compartments throughout my body that, again, I'm not carrying anything in my hands beyond what I need to. The one good thing about the water bottle is you can carry it like that so that your hands are still free. So if you fall, you can catch yourself, and or if you need to catch your balance, it's not something that's actually like taking away one of your hands from being used. So that is nice. You have the ability to do that if you want to carry the water bottle. And then, like I said, with the pockets, it helps take things away from your hands and you can store them. So if you're someone who already owns all of the other pieces of running gear I've talked about, but for some reason, none of that gear has pockets to carry your phone and or gels or keys, your water bottle could be that. You could fit a phone in here. You could fit your gels, key, whatever you're looking at carrying, the hot hands, anything you could carry in that pocket. And then secondly, the water is an essential piece of running gear for the winter because even though it's cold outside, that doesn't mean you're not getting dehydrated on your runs, and you should still be drinking some type of liquid while you're on your run. And so having a water bottle with you is crucial to making sure you're staying safe and hydrated out on your runs. All right, so that is it for my winter running gear essentials. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave down in the comments if you believe I missed anything, or if you know of something that you believe is a must for your winter running. And as always, thanks for watching.